Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today we are going to talk about disrespectful behavior in a relationship or even prior to a serious relationship, and drawing your boundaries from the get-go and letting partners know what is unacceptable and what's acceptable. And really, it's different for different people in different relationships. So if you like this video, throw me a like. If you want to subscribe. But also, please put in the comments a time you might have been disrespected or some of the boundaries that you set in a relationship, and share with others if you have a story to share. So, and if the story is good enough in the comments, maybe I'll share it on the channel. So basically what we want to start with here, what is disrespectful to you as an individual? So if you look up the meaning on Google, it's impolite, rude, showing no courtesy, but I believe it's a lot deeper when you think about disrespectful behavior to a partner. I believe in a relationship that disrespectful behavior is disregard for another's feelings and a lack of empathy. Because when you show up with someone and you're a couple, you are actually projecting and showing others who you are as a team, who you are as a group, and you can embarrass an individual with your behavior. So in this particular story that was sent in to me, and I had a similar situation happen to me in the past, it's not someone that was necessarily broken up. It was prior to, but it definitely talks about disrespectful behavior, and I'm going to touch on a few things here. I was dating a girl who we had been seeing each other for over a month or so, but we weren't official. She invited me to one of her friends' birthdays. I had a weird feeling because at the time we weren't officially together, but we were both developing feelings. But the relationship was open for us to see other people. So this is actually like an interesting spot to be in when you first start seeing someone, because you're dating, you're together, but you're not official. It's like you're not really all in. And this guy was saying that he was 31 and she's 32. So you're at an age where you know who you are, and she knows who she is. And you know, you're just getting to the point maybe in 2 months, 3 months where you become official. So he writes, and this woman I was seeing was friendly, popular, and had a flirting personality. So I know what he means here. It doesn't necessarily mean that she gets around. I've had 2 girlfriends in the past, and these are people you're drawn to. Women that are flirtatious, friendly, popular, outgoing, they're attractive. But the thing is, they also attract other men. And sometimes it can come off as them being easy or them being too open. But the same thing that attracts you to them is the same thing that's going to attract more men. Okay? So you have to deal with that when you date a woman like this. You can't just tell her, stop flirting with everyone. It might be a part of her personality. I had seen before how she entertained guys' interest. I didn't want to be a part of her flirting with other guys in my presence. So you're well aware of the way she acts. And let's just keep in mind what flirting to you is and what flirting to her is different maybe, you know? Like the fact that to me, someone will say, oh, look at how much she's flirting. And I could be like, well, she's just being friendly. You know, she's being friendly and sweet and cute. Is that flirting? In my book, yeah, it could be flirting, but it's innocent. There's a line, right? If someone starts making physical contact, I think that's one of the lines. You know, if she starts rubbing the guy's leg while they're sitting next to each other and talking, or they're staring into each other's eyes deeply, a couple laughs, a couple interested questions, I don't know if that's crossing the line. So, you know, be aware of that. I had seen before how she entertained the guy's interest. I didn't want to be a part of that. I got that. Anyhow, I went. Dun. Here we go. She proceeded to drink a lot, and I actually invited my cousin to go with us. So you have an audience, so that'll put a little more pressure on her behavior. Upon arrival, there was a guy at the bar that obviously knew her. She went over to talk to him, which I found slightly disrespectful, and their conversation seemed to carry on. I had one eye on it. The fact that she didn't invite you into the conversation says a lot. She eventually came over to me and my cousin, to which at this point I talked to her in a neutral tone. I was slightly upset. Well, I don't blame you. Bottom line is, you come together even though you're not together, and she goes over to approach another guy. She said, oh, you know what? Come with me. I want you to meet Tom. I work with him. Tom's a friend. Or me and Tom used to hook up a long time ago, but now we're just friends. If you just go over there and you create this open loop for the rest of the night, you're thinking, who is this guy? And the other guy's thinking, who are you? It's not nice. It's misleading. It's mysterious. And it's disrespectful. The right thing would have been for me to introduce myself to the guy or for her to introduce me, but at the time we weren't together. I think if she's going to make the lead and go over there and those two are making contact, the right thing for her to do, if there's nothing there between that guy and her, is to introduce you. Otherwise, it would lead me to believe that there is something there if she's not introducing you. She had a right to talk to who she wanted, but we did come together. Yeah, the fact that you came to the party together, drove in the same car, you had been seeing each other, yes, she can talk to who she wants on her own time, but when you're together, no. I don't agree with that. And if she is, she can say, like, oh, me and this guy, we've dated a few times. Be upfront about it. She had a right to talk to who she wanted. Okay, now, even though we weren't together, if I saw someone I knew, I'd introduce her and I wouldn't carry on. So right here is where what you find disrespectful, you say, I wouldn't have done that to her, and that's why it's really pissing you off at this point. Getting back to the situation at hand, she continued to drink and check in with me, and I continued to hang with my cousin and even ran into some other friends. Looking back, I wasn't giving her a whole lot of attention. Well, you were pissed off. You were trying to play a game with her. Then as she was going to the bathroom, that guy ran into her in the crowd and actually looked at me, made some comments, then proceeded to rub her back and even rub her ass a little bit. Lines crossed. I mean, right there, like I said, human contact, that's too far. And she received it well, he wrote. At this point, I was embarrassed, ashamed, and disrespected. Well, I would be the same if I was you, and it would be a huge red flag about this individual's character. And maybe she's not hooking up with the guy, but maybe it was her intentions to see how much you care, right? Some women are vindictive that way. But this other guy, the thing is, too, the guy looking at you, some guys would have smacked him, you know? But bottom line is, now the line's really been crossed, and I would definitely say this is highly disrespectful. I don't get jealous. I understand where you're coming from. I'm not a jealous person by nature, but we're all capable of it as a human being. I felt like leaving her there. I would be tempted if I were you to leave. She proceeded to get more drunk. She talked to the guy a few more times, and then before we left, she said goodbye to him. I was fuming. We went home. She stayed at my house. The next morning, I woke up pissed off and went for a run immediately. Good for you. That's what I usually do when I'm really upset. Get immediate exercise. Get active. Do not roost or sit on it. She woke up and called me off the hook knowing something was wrong, but acting like she had no clue what she did. Well, if she called you off the hook the next morning, she knows that she did something that pissed you off. And she probably knows what she did. What she did was get my attention. She proved I cared now. She said sorry multiple times, and that guy was just a friend, and also that we aren't together. It was a sick test. You know, it could have been. It could have been. And she did prove that you cared. But at this point, you just showed her who you are and what you accept and what you don't accept. I felt booby-trapped. Good word. I walked right into that. I made up reluctantly, as my girlfriends of the past would have not behaved that way. So again, we're reflecting on what has happened in the past. And again, you're saying, no bueno. I'm not dealing with this again. I felt disrespected, but after that, she'd eventually be my girlfriend later on. That situation never happened again. Once we were officially together, she knew my boundaries. I told her right away that's not acceptable. So this individual that wrote this had written me some other things about their relationship too, but I thought I would just share this piece because this was part of a private coaching that went a little deeper. But what he was conveying in this is right up front, this situation didn't happen again because the first time it happened, he reacted. He said how he felt. He didn't do anything crazy. He didn't get crazy in public. I think it's extremely important. When you get people, she did something disrespectful in public. I'm not disregarding what she did, but she was drunk. Now, when someone makes a drunk mistake or when someone makes a mistake at the beginning of a relationship, you're feeling each other out. You're finding out what works, what doesn't work, what's accepted, what's not accepted. So people, when they say sorry, you can say, all right, we'll try this out and see how it goes. Now you know where I stand. If someone does that again and again and another time again, now they're telling you who they are. If they say sorry again, now that's a pattern where they get out of it every time the same way. But people are capable of making drunk mistakes. They're capable of changing for the person that they love or they care about. So in this particular situation, he said after that, things were really good for the next few years. But 3 years later, he had an event again, which I'm not going to read the whole part of that story, but 3 years later, she started seeing someone at his yoga class. And again, he had no evidence of her cheating directly on him, but the guy and her were flirting right in front of his face multiple times. And he said this time when she'd confront him, she'd be like, oh, no, you're just overreacting. But most of the time, people repeat their behavior at some point. So the fact that this woman was comfortable doing that in front of him, she'll probably do it again. And he said, I'm not sure she was even seeing him. I don't know if it was just flirtation. But if her level of flirting and being sociable with guys is crossing a boundary for you and just coming off as flatly disrespectful, in this regard, getting her back and her ass rubbed in public in front of an audience that was your cousin and maybe a couple friends, that's completely disrespectful and uncomfortable. And at that point, you did the right thing by calling her out. Continued the relationship. But then later on, 3 years later, I think he said, something similar happened again. And like I said, this is when people show you who they are. So I wrote something here to talk about this. What I'm getting at is most people don't disrespect for sport. Okay? They don't do it for fun. They do it for a reason. Okay? Sometimes they do it to hurt your feelings. Sometimes they're trying to get your attention. You know, in this particular case, she could have been trying to get your attention, or she could just be the type that can't turn down attention from another guy that she's attracted to. But you need to be the judge of what's okay with you. Now, what you do once you're disrespected will set the tone for how you're disrespecting you, how someone will disrespect you in the future. So early on, this guy, he said right off the bat, and he didn't have to deal with it for a few more years, and he was stern about it. It came back up, and then, you know, some things happened later on in the relationship that are totally different, but he stood his ground. Now, I had a couple other situations that I was going to reflect on. I remember my mother had a close friend that she worked with, and the lady was pretty nice. And she, you know, obviously I was a kid, and maybe they were in their 40s. And in public, you know, I don't know, we'd go out on dinners and stuff, you know, my mom and my dad and that couple and another couple, and they'd have kids and things like that. And this woman was completely disrespectful to this man. She treated him like this small. I mean, anything he said would be like, you know what, just be quiet, John, you know, da-da-da-da-da. John, you don't know what you're talking. I mean, anything he said, and he would just go like this and just put his head down. And my dad used to just go, God damn, leave him alone. Like, and my dad would just come home and be fuming, and he'd feel bad for the guy. But really, this constant disrespect was accepted. The guy took it. He took it all the time. And he'd kind of even smirk and smile like, oh, yeah, you know, that's just how, you know, yeah, you're right, hon. Yeah, you're right. And you've probably seen guys like this before. And it's just like, what the fuck's your problem? You know, like, stand up for yourself. And I say that it could be a man to a woman, but you'll be out with them and you're just like, God damn, you're completely disrespectful to your partner. I mean, and she would do this repeated. Anything he'd say or he'd suggest, she'd knock it down. And it was uncomfortable, and it made her the bad guy to everyone else. And she thought, I don't know if she was oblivious to that fact or if she thought she was being strong. I think she had no clue. I just wonder sometimes if people could get a video camera watching how they act. But bottom line is what I'm getting at the end of the day, this guy didn't find it that disrespectful because he kept taking it. He thought it was deserved in a lot of cases because he would nod his head and he'd be like, okay, yeah. And the crazy part is, as the daughter got older, she used to be completely disrespectful to the mom and completely disrespectful for the dad. And that was learned behavior from both of them. It was learned from the mom, okay? And they both took it. So, one more example. I'm just checking my notes here. I had another friend. We were high school friends, but out of high school, he had his first serious girlfriend. I think At the time, he was in computer school or something, like some kind of training just for computers. And he had this girlfriend. This girlfriend had a bad reputation around town. She was quite promiscuous. And he loved her. He cared about her. He was into her. He was happy with the relationship. They used to party a lot, but, like, there'd be little whispers and gossip about her. But they were together for a while, right? And he was doing pretty well. But she would be disrespectful to him. She would talk down to him sometimes. And sometimes you'd be like, does she think she's being cool right now? I mean, if it was a public group, she would act like she was the boss, and she'd find a way to, like, yeah, he's so stupid or this or that. And he kind of just took it, and he would tell us, oh, the sex is amazing. Like, she's treating me this way, but, behind closed doors, it's off the hook. It's this and that. It's great, He accepted it. He was okay with it. And she could be flirtatious at parties and be all, she didn't do anything that I knew of. There was rumors, but I didn't know of anything. And years later, he had moved to some other place, and I had moved to some other place. So we, being an old buddy, maybe once a year, we'd, talk, have contact. And I was like, what happened, with you and so-and-so? I'm not going to say her name. And he was like, wow, like, I caught her in a swimming pool with another guy naked with a beer. And I was done. I was like, damn, really? Are you serious? He goes, we had been partying. They moved to an area in California. There was a lot of partying. They had a place together. And he's like, she's always been a little bit disrespectful to me. She's always, walked that line. He goes, I saw that. I was done. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, so how was it on the breakup? I mean, you guys were together for 4.5 years. This guy goes, no, when I saw that with my own eyes, I was fucking done. And he goes, all the other shit that happened, I was like, I took it. He goes, but that, being naked with another guy in the pool, fuck no. So what happens too is, there's, like I just said, there's a line of disrespect that you'll take. But here's the thing. I'm going to take this a little step further. I'm going to get off the boyfriend-girlfriend thing and show you a different situation that happened in my own life. Because I'm just going to punch this home. It's going to be a little bit of a long video here. The idea is you can disrespect and have someone take it and take it and take it a little bit more. And then all of a sudden they're going to go, that's it. It bubbled up. No more. Okay? When I used to work when I was like 17 years old, I worked at a drugstore, like a big one. And I used to develop 35 millimeter film. That's how old I am. This is like 20 years ago. And I used to be the picture guy. And I used to be in the lab, and there'd be something called 1 hour photo. People that are younger out there won't even know what that is, but where you'd actually print your photos. And so it was an important department to work in, even though I got paid $7 an hour. Like I said, I was 17. But you could go take 10-minute breaks. And this is old school, where they had the card that you would punch in or punch out. And I'd punch the card out for 10 minutes so I didn't get paid. And so like a lot of people, they would push it. And I was one of those people that would push it a little bit. And I wouldn't check out for 10 minutes. I was like, I'm not going to have you take off 10 minutes of my pay. So I went outside, and there was a girl that I liked in school and stuff. And we went outside, and we were just talking, nothing serious. And she came to visit, and we were talking in my truck, and I think I was eating an ice cream or something like that. I thought it was so cool at 17. And my manager comes outside, and my manager, I thought we were really cool, but there was a few things he got upset with me about before, about, like taking too many breaks, or I think I was shooting dice with some friends or something in the back. And we weren't even doing it for money. Anyways, comes outside, he takes a picture of me. He's like, what are you doing, man? He's like, you haven't been in the photo lab for 20 minutes, right? And I'm like, I'm with this girl sitting with me in the car, and we're talking, and I think I'm so cool. And I'm like, yeah, Alan, I'll get to it later, man. Don't worry about it, And he's like, what? And I'm like, I'll be there in a minute. Don't worry about it, And she's like, you should probably go inside. I'm like, I'm fine. I know him. He's cool. I go inside, takes me upstairs. He writes me up. He says, go home right now. I'm like, what the fuck? Well, he goes, Mac, this has happened before where you just don't listen to me. You don't seem to respect me. And I asked you to come in. I was trying to be cool about it. You obviously just don't seem to listen. I was totally caught off guard. I left, and he told me, don't worry about it. I came back in. They fired me the next day. What's my point? Sometimes people aren't even aware how much they're disrespecting you unless you – and my thing was, I remember thinking like, why didn't you tell me before? Well, he was being passive-aggressive about it, and he got to a point where he bubbled up, and he had enough. And that's what will happen with disrespect. Someone will take it. They'll take it for a little while, and then they'll just erupt because it layers and layers and layers, and then it overflows like a boiling pot of water with a lid on top. And that's what happens. But what you have to do up front to be completely clear communication-wise is tell someone. And that first story, that's why I shared that with you. That guy did a really good job of, he didn't make a scene, but the next day he was like, look, that's unacceptable behavior. I'm not going to accept being treated that way. He was clear on what happened and what he was willing to accept, and he was upfront about it. And even though 3 years later he had a similar incident, he was saying that, like, basically she was okay for those few years. What I'm getting at this, bottom line, as I like to say, disrespectful behavior is a choice in what you choose to accept and what you choose not to accept. The minute you accept some sort of disrespectful behavior, a human being will go, that's okay, I can get away with it. And the more you get away with it, the more you'll do it. And the more it's accepted, the more you'll be comfortable with it. And I'll take it a step further. The more you accept it and take it, you'll be more comfortable until it crosses that line. So know your lines and make your partner aware of them. And when someone does something where we quote unquote say red flag, and it comes up another red flag, no. Disrespectful behavior has a shelf life, just like long distance relationships. So if any of you else out there have a disrespectful situation, put it in the comments. I'm interested to hear about it. Thank you for supporting the channel.